Welcome, you folks. Glad to have you in my class for Roots Tech 2022. This is Utah Digital Newspapers. My name is Dawn Snow, and I'm recording this in December of 2021, but you may be watching this even a year from now, since this will be on the Roots Tech website for the next year, starting in March. The notes for this are in two different places, as we'll talk just more in a minute. They're on the Roots Tech website as a handout, and they're also on my web page, and we'll talk about what those are here in just a second. The details are in the notes, but here's what we're going to be talking about. Languages. I'm giving this presentation in English, which is my native language. I also speak Spanish, but this is in English. And you can watch this with subtitles in whatever language you want on the Roots Tech website. The notes are in English. The PDF, portable document format, is there on the Roots Tech website, and that's in English. But I'll show you how you can translate those from my website into a foreign language. We're going to be talking about the Utah Digital Newspapers website and its content, and how you search that and what's there. And how you download and how you do screenshots, and we'll spend most of the time looking at some examples. Now, I want to show you the notes first of all, so that you don't have to worry about taking notes yourself or writing them down. They're in two places, as I mentioned, Roots Tech website and also on my website. My website is on the UVTAGG, that's Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group webpage, and there's the URL for where my notes are stored. The president of that organization, Gerhard Roof, is very helpful. He's the one that helps me with all the technical aspects of what's going on here. Let me show you what's in those notes before we go any further. Let me click over here and go to them. This is, if you click on that URL, or if you type it into your browser, this is my Dawn Snow's class notes page. Down here, as you scroll down a little ways, you'll find classes coming up. And this class that we're dealing with today is on the Utah Digital Newspapers. It's item 5 on this list, but if you're watching this a year from now, it'll be further down the list and you'll have to scroll down to find it. If you click on that, that's a link. I've already clicked on it and opened it up. It's right here. This is what these notes look like. There's an abstract here that tells you a little bit about what we're doing. There's the welcome and the introduction. Here's information about newspapers. Here's information about the Utah Digital Newspapers website. And we'll be looking at examples of most of this stuff. Searching, and then reading and downloading articles and what you can do with those, and then some conclusions. Now, right near the top here, item 3, right in here, is how you can see these notes from my website in a foreign language. I'm going to illustrate that because we can do that quickly. Highlight up there, or somehow get it onto your clipboard. I've copied it onto the clipboard. Now go over to Google, and I've got a link in here for Google. So I will click on Google to open up the Google web page. There's the Google web page. Go over here to where there's the little 9 dots. Click on that, and that's all the Google information. Scroll down until you find where it says Translate, Google Translate. It's further down here. Google Translate right there. Click on it and it will open up the Google Translate. Now, I've already set this for English, starting language. Target language is Spanish, but you could set any other language you wanted that's in here, and there's about 40 or 50 languages. I'm going to hit Control-V to paste in the URL from my web page in there. And now down here, as I scroll down a little bit, there's the same URL. But now when you click on this URL, watch what happens. There's the information. There's my notes, all written in Spanish. Periódicos Digitales de Utah. And there's all the notes, everything written in Spanish, so that you can keep them, read them in your foreign language from the web page. You can't do that from the Roots Tech web page, but you can from my web page. Now, I'm not going to come back to those, so I'm going to leave that out. I'm going to close those tabs so that we don't get mixed up with them. Now, going back to the the newspaper's website here. This is the information on what's in there and some of the details. The newspaper started in the 1600s, and they're public documents. That's one of the benefits of them. So you may find vital records in the newspapers that you could not find because the vital records, the official vital records, are private. You may find information in even ads, classified ads, or legal notices, all kinds of good information in there besides news articles. The Utah Digital newspaper's goal, their website, their goal, it's sponsored by the University of Utah at the Marriott Library there at the University of Utah, is to get all newspapers in Utah digitized and posted there. And right now, they've got 3.5 million pages from nearly 200 newspapers in the state of Utah that are there. These include all the small town newspapers, and you won't find those on other newspaper websites because there's not enough information, not enough demand for those elsewhere. It's free and it's completely searchable. Now we want to spend some time on examples here and demos. There's the URL for the Utah digital newspapers. It's just digitalnewspapers.org. When they started this, I guess they were the only ones in the only state in the United States that had one, so they could use this as the URL. So it doesn't even include Utah, but it's the digitalnewspapers.org is the newspapers for Utah. Let me go back over here to where I've got that opened up. I've got a tab already opened on it. I have a link to it on a bookmark on my browser for it. And here it is. This is what the homepage for it looks like. Utah Digital Newspapers. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see exactly what's here. Here's they always on this date, they always have information about what happened on this date and an example of some newspapers from that date, whatever date that you happen to be. This is from the Salt Lake Herald Republican. And if you click on that little arrow there, you get the next one over here, which is the Salt Lake Times and so on. As you scroll further down, you get more information. Down here on the left side are some of the recent editions of things that they've added. In the news here is information about the digital newspaper's website, and then this is some about the website itself. They work on grants that they get from various organizations, national organizations and Utah organizations, and they're always looking for donations, but they don't request them. You can scroll back up to the top, and here's where we get the newspaper's website itself. And now on there, let me click again to get this open and make sure that we're looking at this in normal contrast. There's a normal contrast from it. Now, across the top here, you see various information, various words here. Here's browse. There's papers scanned. About help and contact them. I would recommend you read the help section. I won't take time to look at it, but it has the answers to several questions about searching and otherwise, and it'll be very helpful to you, and it won't take you long to go through it. Over here on paper scanned, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hold down the control key while I do it, so it will open that in a separate tab. You get this box, or it looks almost like a spreadsheet. It's organized by the county in the state. This is Beaver County, and here are the newspapers in Beaver County. As you scroll down, you get the next county, Box Elder County, and the newspapers in Box Elder County, and so on. Now, the boxes here, the columns, show you this is 1850 to 1860, 1860 to 1870, and 70 on, and so on. And so I'm rolling the mouse wheel here to make this a little bit smaller so that you can see the information a little bit better. These are 10-year increments of newspapers that they have scanned and posted so far. Now you see a big black box here on this one. That's a particular newspaper, Southern Utonian, and so on. Let me scroll down just a speck here. You see this bar, it's kind of grayed out, but that bar, if you drag it over, opens up this to the current dates and to the 10-year increment blocks. Now, let me get to a county here that's smaller so that you can see the, here's one, Davis County. Davis County, there's only 3 newspapers in Davis County, so that now you can see the dates at the top in the blocks there. As I move this bar over, there's the Davis County Clipper, and that tells you that what the years that they have the Davis County Clipper. Going over to the boxes end at the year 1990 to 2000. They are adding the year 2000 to 2020, hopefully within the next a couple of weeks. So maybe if you're watching this a year from now, it'll have another box on there. But the bars across there tell you what time period they've got already scanned and posted for that newspaper. Now, if you want to know more about the newspaper itself, over here on the left side, notice when I move my cursor over there, it turns into a hand. So that's a link. If you click on that link, I'll hold down the control key while I do so it will open in a new tab. There's information about the Davis County Clipper. It gives you the dates when they 1892 to 1992. That's a 100-year period. A little bit about the history of it and the newspaper itself. Down here, scrolling down, there's all the text in the Davis County newspaper, the Davis County Clipper, that if you want to search for keywords or whatever, if you're just in that newspaper, then you type it in here. Over here where it says only text that has been tagged, some people, and they've had human beings actually go through and say, oh, this is an article about births, or that mentions somebody's birth or marriage or death. And so they've actually typed in the name, the headlines of that article, and they've listed what's the birth and the information here. So this means that the article has actually been tagged itself, and that it's only the article that you'll see. If you know exactly the person you're looking for, and you're looking for a particular newspaper, try this one first. But otherwise, try the information over here. Now, usually you want to search all newspapers because you don't know which one would have the information in it. Get back to the top by going to the home page by clicking over here on there, and it'll take you right back up to the Utah Digital Newspapers homepage. Now, the big box right here is search all newspapers. Let me use an illustration. I'm going to type in my father's name, Eldon Snow, E-L-D-O-N-S-N-O-W. My dad was born in southern Utah, well, near southern Utah, and lived in southern Utah in St. George in the early days, and then went to Los Angeles later. So I grew up in Los Angeles. I've typed in Eldon Snow, and I put his name in quotation marks. That means I want that exact phrase. I don't want all the Eldons and all the Snows. I want Eldon Snow on there. Click the search, and it will search for, and there's the results in all the digital newspapers that they've got posted so far, which is, remember, that's 3.5 million pages of newspapers so far. It says we're looking at hits number 1 through 25 of 68 hits. Now, I prefer to see all the hits on one page instead of just the first 25. So I'm going to click over here on this thing where it'll list down to 200 here. And so now I'm looking at all 200 hits of where it has Eldon Snow in exactly that format. Here's the first one that's listed here, Washington County News. Now, that's a newspaper that was published here in St. George. I'm giving this presentation actually in St. George. I never lived here as a kid. I grew up in Los Angeles, but my dad grew up here. This is in the 1990 in January 27th. I've highlighted that. That's international date format, where there's 4 digits for the year, dash 2 digits for the month, dash 2 digits for the day. And when you use that format, everything alphabetizes chronologically. What this says is this was an article that says Roll of Honor. And I thought, oh, good, my dad was on the Roll of Honor. But when I began to look, I'm going to hold down the control key while I click on this link here to see what it is. Here's the article. It's a Roll of Honor, all right, but it's of the St. George Sunday School for the year 1899. Dad was born in 1891, so he was 8 years old. And this tells who was absent from the Sunday school during the year. Dad missed three days. He's down here in the absent 3 times. He's right down here. There he is, Eldon Snow, 3 times in there. Now I've done I've got a copy of that article, and so I won't take time to do that again. But you can get a copy of that right here. See where it says download the file? If you click on that, it will download the file. You can give it a name, and I've got a naming system that I use that I've talked about before that will help in finding information about it. Now let me scroll down. Let me go back to let me close that, and because I held down the control key, I'm back on this same page where all this stuff was, that were the search elements, and that saves me time going back and forth. I want to go down to one where it's a full page newspaper. Here's one. There's a full page newspaper. This is the Salt Lake Herald Republican. I'd never heard of that newspaper, but this is 1917, October the 12th. That's World War I. My dad was in the Army, the United States Army in World War I, sent over to France and Germany. So I'm going to hold down the control key while I click on that newspaper and see what we get here. Now, what's happening here is there is the whole newspaper, the whole page of that newspaper. It's page 3 of the Salt Lake Herald Republican of 1917, 10/12, which is October the 12th. Now, for me, it's helpful. Someplace on there, my dad has mentioned, and it's highlighted on there, and I've actually found where it is and what the article is. But for me, it's helpful to download that whole newspaper. So I click that download file, and that puts the whole newspaper on my computer, so that it's on my computer that I can then work with a PDF reader and find the article and actually do a screenshot of the small article itself. And I have actually done that for this article. It turns out this is my dad in the Army, that he arrived in Europe. It doesn't say where in Europe because the censors had eliminated, had blocked out the country where he arrived, but it was France where he arrived, and the article is there. So I've got a copy of that article itself, and that's worthwhile having. So there's all kinds of other information on here. Now, one that you don't know what you're going to find here. So let me go back up here and show you an example of something that I came across. It's been about a year ago. It was my dad's name, and it was in 1945. That was right at the end of World War II. And we were living in California. I was 14 years old in those days. Click on the search, so that it'll take me right to that particular newspaper. Here's the newspaper, the Washington County News in 1945, July 12th. If I hold down the control key on that one, and it opens up over here, here's the article. Let me roll the mouse wheel so it'll be a little bit larger. There's a piece. Now, this is one of these tagged ones, so there's a piece of it tagged here. Donald Snow, that's me, son of Dr. and Mrs. Eldon Snow. Dad went to dental school at University of Southern California in Los Angeles and stayed in LA afterwards, and that's why I grew up down there. Of Studio City, Hollywood, it's actually North Hollywood, arrived this Thursday morning with his cousin, Lieutenant Dean Snow, for an extended visit. I never would have guessed that my name was in this paper in 1945, because I came up, I used to come up for a couple of weeks from California and stay with my Uncle Harold and his kids, visit for a couple of weeks, because it was Dad's brother was Harold Snow from here in St. George. I never would have guessed my name would have been, I could have found my name in here, but I didn't think to search for my name on it, but it came up with my dad's name. I've done a screenshot of that page as well. Anyway, you get the idea as to what you can do with some of these things. So those are examples and demos of what's happening with that website, and there's the website itself. Now, with as a summary of what we've looked at some languages, and remember that we showed that if you use my handout that's on the RITSTech website, it's only in English because that's a PDF, and so that's not changeable. But if you go to my website for the handout, you can actually change that to other languages and read them in whatever language you want to, Portuguese or German or many other languages. We looked at the Utah Digital Newspapers website, sponsored by the University of Utah, the Marriott Library, and their goal is to get all the newspapers from the state of Utah free. Many other states have the similar things, but not all states do. They've now got, this website has 3.5 million pages already now from nearly 200 newspapers, and they're searchable and downloadable. That's the story on the Utah Digital Newspapers website. I appreciate your watching. This is Roots Tech 2022. My email address is right there, snowd@math.byu.edu. If you're watching this a year from now and you want to write me and ask me a question, I'll be glad to try and answer it for you. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope that you've enjoyed it and picked up a couple of ideas from the presentation.